Ain't Armian is wielding a sword while donning knightly armor and a cape. He's portrayed boldly charging forward, glowing with divine brilliance. He is the central figure of the prophecy, the chosen protagonist destined to shape the fate of the world. He sits alone at a grand desk, overwhelmed by stacks of documents. A sense of unease looms as he reflects on the prophecy's implications, revealing that his own fate may be intricately tied to Ain't's rise. Focusing on his hand tapping anxiously against the desk, he delivers a sharp twist. Ain't isn't just the hero of the world, he's also the one prophesied to cause the narrator's downfall. This realization adds a layer of dread and foreshadows future conflict between the two characters. Despite the looming threat, Ain't's reputation and power are on the rise. A humorous graph appears, showcasing Ain't as a stock-like figure climbing in popularity and influence. The caption humorously brands him the boss of investment boys at Lu, further showing his growing charisma. He reflects on the contrasting personalities between himself and the Ain't from the prophecy. While he admits to more materialistic tendencies, Ain't is portrayed as someone who cherishes honor above wealth. This disparity highlights the growing gap between their values and destinies. He appears serious and intimidating as he mutters about punishing someone for trying to win favor with money. He contemplates the risk of approaching him too directly, knowing that careless actions could backfire. Ain't's fierce words reveal a strong sense of justice, or perhaps a rigid moral code that makes the narrator tread cautiously. He calmly acknowledges that the current issue at hand is a difficult one. His words draw immediate interest from the other person in the room, who reacts with surprise and asks for clarification about what exactly he finds so difficult. He lounging casually presents a metaphor about investing in a top-performing stock, clearly referring to Ain't. He asks Hyde what he would do in such a scenario, and Hyde responds without hesitation that he would invest confidently. Hints at a plan to approach or befriend Ain't, treating him like a valuable opportunity. Continuing the metaphor, he asks Hyde what if the stock had a clashing personality. Hyde casually dismisses the concern, suggesting that even conflicting traits shouldn't stop investment. This reinforces the metaphor and subtly indicates that Ain't's rigid ideals may be overcome through clever handling, perhaps even manipulation. Looking reflective, he recalls the Duke's philosophy that even personalities can be reshaped through money. He acknowledges Hyde's point and silently agrees, believing that with the right incentives, even someone like Ain't could be influenced. This signals the beginning of a strategic, possibly manipulative approach to aligning with Ain't. He reflects that the situation only feels complicated because of external chaos like demons and destruction. At its heart, the logic remains simple: invest wisely, embrace risks, and accumulate enormous wealth. As he lounges confidently amidst piles of gold, he emphasizes that even clashing personalities pale in comparison to the influence and power that come with money. He realizes that to proceed effectively, he needs more insight into Ain't. Driven by urgency, he decides to meet Ain't in person immediately, believing that direct interaction is the key to uncovering the information he seeks. His determined gesture of pulling out his coat signals his readiness to act without delay. The attendant is caught off guard as his master suddenly rushes off, announcing his intent to meet someone. Confused and alarmed, the attendant reminds him about an incoming guest, unsure why his master is prioritizing another meeting so urgently. The moment highlights the main character's impulsive resolve, overshadowing scheduled plans. He lets out a sigh, visibly annoyed or perhaps resigned, as he mutters to himself. He sarcastically recalls that his master was only just reading about the prophecy the day before, clearly frustrated by how quickly his master is now taking drastic action based on that information. The scene opens with a visual tour of the academy's structure for dormitory assignments. It is explained that placements are based entirely on a student's entrance exam ranking, establishing a strict merit-based hierarchy from the very beginning. Students ranked 1 to 10 are given spots in the luxurious and highly prestigious Labidus dorm. This elite facility symbolizes privilege and top-tier status. The Blessed Dorm, assigned to students ranked 11 to 30. Though not quite as elite as Labitus, it still holds considerable prestige and is reserved for highly capable and respected students. That students who rank below the top 30 are placed in a poorly maintained and unattractive dormitory. The building looks old and run down, clearly indicating its low status within the academy's hierarchy. It visually contrasts with the elite dorms. Gardner Alpenfarson's ego and angry, sentient spirit residing in the sword that Ain't pulled. The spirit is furious upon realizing that Ain't has been placed in the lowest ranked Deeb's dorm, which is reserved for the academy's least accomplished students. The shock and rage highlight how disgraceful this placement seems for someone of Ain't's lineage. The spirit furiously protests that someone from the prestigious Armian bloodline has been relegated to the lowest-ranking Deeb's dorm. It finds it outrageous that a descendant isn't even placed in the mid-tier Blessed dorm, despite being enrolled in the elite Armian academy. Meanwhile, Ain't remains calm, quietly reviewing documents as the spirit rages beside him. He reacts with a smile to the spirit's outrage, suggesting that if the late emperor were alive, he'd be furious at the current situation and take vengeance on the demons, while he wonders why demons are even being mentioned. The spirit angrily insists that such a disgraceful situation like a descendant of Armian being placed in the lowest dorm could only happen through demonic interference, emphasizing the unnaturalness of the event. The blue spirit furiously reacts to the student's excuse that he's in the lowest ranked dorm because he's weak. The spirit is shocked and disappointed that a descendant of the prestigious Armian line could admit to being so powerless. He's sitting calmly with a book, shifts the blame to history, specifically to the first emperor, arguing that he's the reason for their current troubles. The spirit is visibly surprised, questioning this bold claim. A visual explanation appears, showing that the first emperor abolished the imperial succession system. In its place, he established a method where the emperor would be elected from 7 major electorates, fundamentally altering the empire's structure. It's revealed that a former ruler from the Armians donated most of their land and assets to the empire. Since then, other elector families have ruled the empire for over a century, sidelining the Armians from power. He reflects that the territory once owned by the Armians no longer belongs to them, and over time, his family's influence and fortunes declined. They even lost some ancestral sword techniques that were passed down for generations. Despite being from an elector family, the boy admits he never received proper sword training due to their fallen status. The spirit assures him that he still has talent and promises full support to restore the glory of the Armians. He reflects on the possibility that the late emperor may have foreseen these events and intentionally positioned him for a greater purpose. Someone calls out for Ain't from outside the room. Confused, Ain't wonders if a visitor was expected and asks who it is. A blond boy introduces himself confidently as Ain't's Sunbee Sr., surprising both Ain't and the glowing blue spirit. The moment builds suspense as the door handle is turned, prompting Ain't to react in disbelief, saying, "No way." Fernan Sunbee unexpectedly appears at the door, greeting Ain't with a calm smile. Ain't is surprised by his presence and immediately asks what brings him there, showing both respect and curiosity toward the unexpected visit. He politely asks if Ain't is busy, and Ain't replies that he doesn't have anything urgent at the moment. Fernan then requests a moment of his time, hinting that the reason for his visit might be private or important. He glances around at the surrounding students and comments on how the current location is too public and suspicious. He suggests they relocate to a quieter place where they can talk more privately, implying the discussion might involve sensitive matters. Ain't, caught slightly off guard but smiling, agrees to join Fernan and asks for just 10 minutes to get ready. His tone is polite and relaxed, treating the request with casual urgency while preparing himself mentally for the meeting. Fernan playfully scolds Ain't for making a senior wait 10 minutes, humorously reminiscing about how he would have responded instantly in his younger days, even in his underwear. Embarrassed, Ain't quickly changes his promise to 5 minutes instead, flustered by the light-hearted pressure and eager not to offend. After agreeing to step out, Ain't tells him that he will meet him outside the dormitory shortly. As he prepares to leave, the small blue spirit floats beside him, observing quietly. The moment feels calm yet curious, with the spirit seemingly processing the interaction. The blue spirit suddenly erupts in anger, shouting in frustration and disbelief. It demands to know who the mysterious man was, clearly irritated by his presence and possibly feeling overshadowed or left out. The spirit's fiery outburst hints at jealousy or deep suspicion. Ain't explains that the visitor is Fernan Fellenberg, the eldest son of the prestigious Fellenberg family. The blue spirit reacts dismissively, scoffing at the name and referring to the Falkenberg family as a nouveau rich clan, implying disdain or rivalry toward their rising status. The blue spirit vents its frustration, questioning the superiority of the Fellenbergs, claiming they rely solely on wealth and have no right to command a royal heir. Meanwhile, Ain't reflects quietly, puzzled about why someone like Fernan would specifically want to meet with him. Fernan looks serious and slightly tense as he notices the sword with Ain't. Internally, he worries whether Fernan has come to collect the money he owes for a potion, but Fernan's calm comment about the sword suggests a different, possibly more serious reason for the visit. He reassures the Ain't that he has no harmful intentions and understands why he chose to bring a sword. The knight responds that he simply feels safer carrying it, and the seated man comments that most knights are naturally attached to their swords. He identifies the sword as one that contains the spirit of Sir Gardner Alpenfassern. The blonde knight, visibly nervous but curious, asks why he wanted to meet him in the first place. He tries to play off his intentions as nothing serious and casually slides over a menu, implying he simply wants to have dinner together. Surprised, he questions the dinner idea, but he reassures him to order freely. Feeling awkward, Ain't hesitates, noting the restaurant looks too high-end for his comfort. He sternly insists that he should never turn down a senior's offer, referencing the customs of his own generation. Flustered and clearly intimidated, he quickly agrees, addressing him respectfully as Sunbi Nim and hurrying to look at the menu to avoid further scolding. Both of them are sitting across from each other at a table in an upscale restaurant. Ain't anxiously studies the menu while his sword leans beside him, suggesting he's still cautious despite the calm setting. Fernan silently observes Ain't from behind his menu, analyzing him with a sharp gaze. Though Ain't appears naive and gentle on the surface, Fernan is starting to suspect there's more going on beneath the surface. He is internally frustrated and surprised, realizing that Ain't had actually managed to deceive him somehow. He's caught off guard and wonders how someone who seems so innocent could have tricked him so well. Breaking the tension, Fernan suddenly asks Ain't about his future plans after graduating from the academy. The unexpected question catches Ain't off guard, and he reacts with a startled, confused expression. Fernan explains that most students attend the academy to expand their family's influence, but the Armian family has always avoided socializing under the pretense of focusing on strength. This indirectly questions Ain't's motives and path. Ain't expresses frustration at being looked down on due to his family's fallen status, revealing he's tired of the scorn they receive at the academy. He acknowledges that the Armian family still retains royal blood, even if only in name, and remarks on how surprising the situation is. With determination in his eyes, he declares that his goal is to become a royal knight and restore his family's lost honor. Fernan observes that he has strong ambition and pride in his lineage, with a drive powerful enough to reach his dreams. He reflects that the Ain't isn't just a gentle kid. In a Chibai-style conversation, he asks if Ain't has any dietary restrictions, to which Ain't replies he doesn't. Then, when asked about MBTI, Ain't gets confused and cluelessly responds, "MBTI? What?" showing his innocence and unfamiliarity. He observes the academy building under moonlight, reflecting that he now understands what kind of person Ain't Armian truly is. A detailed stock analysis presents Ain't as a prideful, self-assured individual who values honor. He's labeled as an underrated yet promising long-term investment potentially crucial in a future world-ending scenario. Fernan sits confidently with a newspaper, noting that giving Ain't money outright would have damaged his pride. For someone like Ain't, subtle manipulation is more effective than obvious charity. Fernan gleefully imagines his plan succeeding when the time is right. He'll reel Ain't Armain in like a fish, securing him like a prized catch. The exaggerated Chibai scene shows him literally fishing with gold as bait, triumphantly pulling the blonde target out of the water, celebrating the manipulation with a satisfied, "What a catch." He secretly plots to manipulate Ain't Armain for his own benefit, intending to extract every ounce of value from him. Meanwhile, he respectfully greets his returning master, unaware of the cunning plan forming in his mind. He greets the master upon his return, while the master secretly plans to gain everything from his target, even down to the marrow. The servant inquires whether the master met with someone from the Bersha family, prompting a vague response and deflection from the master. The servant reminds him about summoning Ruina Bershif earlier due to her slacking off, to which the master casually feigns forgetfulness. He explains that he would have sent the girl back if he knew the master would be late, and adds that she waited 3 hours before leaving. This suggests concern for the girl's time, but also hints at miscommunication. He questions if the delay might demoralize her, but Fernan coldly replies that crushing her determination will make her easier to control, revealing his manipulative mindset. Fernan reflects on the efforts he's made to tie Bershiv to his side and shows concern that things must go according to plan. His intense focus reveals how much is riding on this strategy. Suddenly, he feels a wave of pain or dizziness and clutches his head, alarming him, who rushes over to ask what's wrong, clearly concerned by the unexpected reaction. He clutches his head, visibly in discomfort. He tries to brush it off by saying it's nothing, but a bead of sweat and the red strain in his eye reveal that something unusual is happening inside him. He quietly admits that he is experiencing a sudden headache, hinting at a deeper, possibly supernatural cause. His eye glowing red suggests a sudden activation of a power or an awakening. He recognizes this sensation but wasn't expecting it to resurface now, indicating a connection to a buried memory or power. He sits still, stunned, as glowing words from an earlier prophecy begin to flash vividly before his eyes. Terms like aquamarine, noble, alive, and fluttering swirl around him. He immediately recognizes these as fragments of the unreadable parts from a past vision. Confused and on edge, he questions why these cryptic clues are resurfacing now, hinting that something significant is about to unfold tied to the prophecy. A magical vision of a woman with flowing brown hair and aquamarine eyes. She stands confidently, bathed in ethereal light, her presence otherworldly. The narration emphasizes that these physical traits are only part of her mystique. What truly defines her is the aura of nobility and the captivating beauty of her living, almost sentient sword. He deepens the enchantment, noting how the sword appears alive and moves with mesmerizing brilliance. A striking visual of a glowing sword symbolizes an extraordinary female warrior whose talent rivals that of a royal knight. However, it's revealed she harbors malevolence, a darkness within her soul. This inner turmoil is hinted to be the key reason her brilliance remains restrained despite her immense skill. He, watching her solemnly, reveals his realization. If the constraints that bind her could be broken, she would regain her freedom and rise again to her full potential. His eyes reflect both hope and sadness, believing in the greatness she could achieve if only unshackled. He identifies those shackles as the Fellenberg family. With urgency and determination in his expression, he resolves to liberate her from their oppressive grip. His declaration underscores a personal mission to help her rediscover her strength and soar unbound. The woman sits at the table in quiet reflection, stunned by the realization that Ain't may have grown to hate her in the future. The atmosphere is heavy as her mind begins to piece together the consequences of her past actions. Her eyes shine with subtle vulnerability as she contemplates what led to Ain't's hatred and how deep the scars must be for him to feel that way. Meanwhile, he is overcome by a surge of chaotic emotion or power, clutches his head and mutters in frustration. His glowing red eyes and twisted smile suggest that he's on the edge of losing control. In a contrastingly calm moment, a butler tries to offer something to the seated young man, who casually waves him off, saying he wasn't speaking to him. This implies he might be communicating with someone or something else entirely. The woman calls out angrily to Fernan Fellenberg, demanding answers for his actions. Her voice echoes through the glass-walled room, revealing how serious and emotionally charged the conversation is about to be. She accuses Fernan of standing her up the day before and questions why he would summon her again. Her frustration is evident, especially as she reminds him she's the one overwhelmed with debt, hinting at her desperate situation. With a sharp glare, she questions his true intentions, asking if he's trying to completely crush her morale. Her expression shows a mix of anger, disbelief, and emotional exhaustion, signaling that she's at her breaking point. He pauses at the entrance, expression unreadable as he gazes toward the woman seated near the grand staircase. The atmosphere is thick with unspoken tension, his silence indicating hesitation or restrained emotion, while the woman remains still, observing him through a barred window. Despite not facing him directly, he narrates her ability to sense her irritation just from her back. It's clear there is deep tension between them, tied to a heavy history. The Bershev family has long held the noble title of Border Count. A flashback begins, introducing the Bershev family as a once powerful noble house guarding the Northern Empire and even holding the rare status of prince-electors. Glowing blue illustrations show the family's knightly heritage and their prominence within the empire. Disaster struck when waves of monstrous attacks ravaged their lands. Their fortress-like estate was laid to ruin in flames, and their glory faded overnight. The Inferno imagery reflects the scale of the tragedy and how thoroughly the Bershev family's power was dismantled. In desperation, the Bershev family resorted to selling even their most valuable possessions, their golden patent, the document granting them their electoral rights. However, the money raised still wasn't enough to restore what was lost. At their lowest point, a hand reached out to them, the head of the Fellenberg family, the speaker's father. The narration suggests this act wasn't out of compassion, hinting instead at ulterior motives. The presence of a formal contract and signet ring reveals this was likely a calculated transaction rather than a gesture of goodwill. The father's intentions were far from charitable. This confirms that helping Bershev was never about sympathy, it was a calculated power play. Though they were skilled in magic, they lacked mastery in magic swordsmanship, a skill Bershev possessed. The father saw Bershev's downfall as the perfect moment to seize that coveted technique, marking the start of his exploitation plan. The extent of manipulation becomes clear. The Fellenbergs actively blocked other nobles from supporting the Bershev family financially. By isolating them economically, they forced the Bershevs into a massive loan trap, one they couldn't refuse due to desperation. The use of imagery with chains around a floating island highlights this suffocating pressure. While Bershev narrowly avoided collapse, they now suffer under a brutal cycle of annual interest. He reflects with regret, noting that if they had applied just a bit more pressure, Bershev might have broken completely and given up their magic swordsmanship, revealing how close the plan came to success. Ruina Bershev, who is described as a talented future royal knight and the destined lover of Ain't Armian. The narrator is visibly frustrated, realizing that despite everything, Ruina is set to achieve great things, including love with Ain't. The jealousy is palpable as he laments that Ain't seems to be getting everything he desires: power, love, and victory. From outside the window, he reflects on how Ruina is connected to Ain't, which makes her extremely valuable regardless of the family's magic swordsmanship. Even if he can't gain her favor entirely, the least he can do is ensure she doesn't hate him, suggesting there's more strategic intent behind this meeting than just an apology. He enters the room and greets her, masking his discomfort with formal politeness. He addresses her full name, Ruina Bershiv, and notes that she arrived earlier than expected. While seated, he apologizes for missing their meeting the previous day. He tries to downplay the incident, explaining that he was distracted and genuinely forgot about their appointment. His posture and delivery hint that he's being honest, but also cautious. He continues his apology by stating that he never ignored her intentionally. However, Ruina doesn't seem fully convinced. Her tone turns colder as she cuts him off, saying that the one who gets hurt is always the one on the receiving end of injustice. The emotional gap between them becomes more apparent. The argument escalates in a comedic visual style, as he insists that he didn't mean any harm. Ruina brushes him off sarcastically, saying they can pretend he didn't mean it. Realizing the tension, he tries to recover the conversation by clarifying that he wasn't trying to offend her. His demeanor softens, and she earnestly asks why he came to meet her, redirecting the discussion to the purpose behind their interaction. Fernan, with a cunning smile, confidently remarks that the other person already knows why he called this meeting. Internally, he's plotting how to win Ruina Bershiv's favor, showing his hidden strategic mindset and personal ambition regarding her. A parchment appears, labeled Phase 1 of Fernan's mission titled Operation Seduce Ruina Bershiv. This hints that Fernan has devised a multi-step plan to charm Ruina and manipulate the situation to his advantage, treating it like a mission or conquest. Fernan begins to introduce the idea of a joint class between departments, only to be cut off mid-sentence by Ruina's firm and immediate refusal. Her sharp reaction indicates she's not interested in cooperating and is wary of his intentions even before he speaks. Ruina continues, assuming Fernan was about to ask her to be his partner. She dismisses the idea outright, questioning his reasoning. Her bluntness shows her awareness and complete unwillingness to entertain even the possibility of working with him. Ruina calmly sips tea and dismisses Fernan's value as a partner. She claims that as the second-ranked student in the department, she has far better options than partnering with someone who's only ranked 10th, asserting her superiority and standards. However, Fernan makes a surprising offer. He proposes that if Ruina partners with him for 3 years, he'll erase all the interest debt she owes. This sudden and significant gesture catches Ruina off guard, shown by the close-up of her wide, shocked eyes. He proposes a significant condition. He will agree to waive all interest only if Ruina Bershiv accepts him as her sponsor. This sudden turn of negotiation surprises Ruina, prompting her to demand a reason for this unexpected offer. He attempts to justify his request by insisting that all joint classes are valuable, clearly dodging the deeper motive behind his sponsorship demand. Ruina looks skeptical and confrontational as she questions his intention to be both her partner and her sponsor. She explains that, as a scholarship student, she is already burdened and doesn't need further complications from a noble's intervention. He reflects on his financial limitations. He reveals that most of his scholarship funds are sent to support his family, and aside from staying in the academy dorms, he lives with fewer comforts than even commoners. This vulnerability adds depth to his reasoning. Another woman sits nearby as Ruina listens. He reassures her that the sponsorship doesn't imply anything inappropriate. It's merely a financial arrangement, not a personal imposition. Ruina, still suspicious, listens as the protagonist explains his real motive. He claims to be investing in her solely because of her talent, acknowledging that nobles rarely sponsor fellow nobles, but he wants to break that mold for someone as promising as her. He reflects on Ruina Bershiv's personality, stating that like Ain't, she deeply values loyalty and honor. This recognition underscores the complexity of dealing with someone who holds firm to principles, something that could either be a strength or an obstacle depending on the situation. He is aware that her pride may be a barrier, but also a trait he can strategically consider. With a smug expression, he points out the class difference between their families. Though Bershiv is an honored noble house, he reminds her that the Fellenberg lineage once held royal status, subtly suggesting a superiority in pedigree. This insinuation is both a tactical jab and an attempt to shift the power balance in their favor. Ruina reacts sharply, clearly offended by the comparison. She interprets his comment as an insult and demands clarification. Her visible agitation shows that while she maintains a noble front, she's easily provoked when her family's status is questioned. The narrator then notes that there is a complex historical relationship, possibly a rivalry or conflict between Fellenberg and Bershev. He recognized that regardless of Ruina's pride or dislike for the offer, she might still be forced to accept his sponsorship due to circumstance. He believes this is not the moment for pride or honor to take the lead, subtly pushing her toward practicality over sentiment in accepting the deal. Even if Ruina harbors resentment toward Fellenberg, he reaffirms that his compliment about her talent was sincere. He attempts to ground the conversation in genuine merit rather than political maneuvering. His words imply that despite any personal history or family rivalry, talent should speak for itself, and he genuinely sees her as worthy of investment. The next phase of Fernand's bold plan is revealed. Operation Seduce Ruina. Bershev enters Phase 2, emphasizing that he's not backing down from his calculated courtship mission. Fernand complimenting Ruina with poetic admiration. He recalls witnessing her sword dance recently and vividly describes her flowing brown hair and aquamarine eyes, but emphasizes that these are only fragments of her grandeur. What truly captivated him was the nobility and beauty reflected in her swordsmanship. Ruina is caught off guard, her expression softening as she listens. For a moment, her usual stoic demeanor fades, replaced by surprise and subtle curiosity. It's clear Fernand's words have struck a deeper chord than she expected. Fernand confidently states that Ruina is not just noble in lineage, but noble and alive in her actions. His steady gaze and genuine admiration reinforce that this is not flattery but sincere recognition of her strength and elegance. He rises with heartfelt emotion, declaring that the image of her sword dance is etched into his memory. Ruina, confused and flustered, asks what he means, clearly not used to being praised so openly or earnestly. Fernand's strategy is beginning to unravel her emotional defenses. Fernand dramatically delivers a poetic declaration titled Ode to Ruina Bershev's Sword Dance. He praises her technique as elegant, dignified. His over-the-top admiration is meant to impress, but clearly borders on theatrical obsession. Ruina, visibly horrified and overwhelmed, yells at him to stop. Her exaggerated expression and glowing eyes show she's both embarrassed and infuriated by the cheesiness of his praise, struggling to handle the cringe-worthy intensity of his words. Despite Ruina's plea, Fernand stubbornly declares that he simply cannot stop. His expression turns fierce with determination, signaling that he's fully committed to the performance regardless of her discomfort or protest. He insists that he hasn't yet found the perfect words to capture the true beauty of her sword dance. The emotion in his voice is raw and intense, while Ruina begins to crumble under the pressure, screaming in frustration as his flattery escalates to unbearable levels. Finally, completely worn down by the endless barrage of poetic compliments, Ruina gives in and agrees to be his partner. Her face is flushed with exasperation. Fernand's mission is stamped a grand success. His Operation Seduce Ruina Bershev has officially reached completion. A formal sponsorship offer is being explained. It includes a full 3-year interest waiver and secret financial support. The terms are generous and confidential, ensuring that no public acknowledgement of the sponsorship will be required. A composed girl holding the contract elaborates on the finer details. She notes that the agreement can be terminated right after graduation, making the offer more flexible. However, the catch is revealed. The recipient must partner with the so-called money-grubbing demon for the entire 3 years. Ruina sits relaxed and confident, showing no hesitation. She smiles softly and admits that the deal's terms were simply too good to turn down. Her calm tone indicates she's already decided to go forward with the partnership. She looks curious and skeptical, questioning what exactly Fernan saw in Ruina. Ruina explains that he found potential in her sword dance, describing it with grand words like noble, beautiful, and alive, something that clearly flattered her. Ruina continues, recalling that Fernan hadn't even found the perfect words yet to fully capture the beauty of her sword dance. Her tone reveals both pride and amusement as she relishes the memory of his passionate praise. Her expression turns deadly serious and intimidating. Her eyes narrow with irritation as if she's reached her limit, most likely from hearing the exaggerated admiration. The mood shifts sharply from lighthearted to threatening. She, clearly fuming, holds up a document and explodes in outrage. Flames blaze behind her, symbolizing her anger as she accuses the crazy money grubber of finally making a bold move. Despite her fury, she begrudgingly acknowledges that Fernan has some taste. Meanwhile, a calmer voice off-panel reminds her to watch her words. After all, Fernan is still the heir of the prestigious Fellenberg family. She rants that Fernan has begun using seduction tactics. She claims that his striking appearance, intense gaze, and charming smile are all deliberate ploys meant to bewitch Ruina. Her exaggerated accusations are laced with jealousy and suspicion, while Ruina looks off to the side, processing everything with an awkward expression and a hesitant nanny. "Do you like that type?" Ruina offers a sheepish but honest smile. She admits that while she didn't exactly feel seduced, she was definitely suspicious of Fernan's motives. Still, the 3-year offer of waived interest on her debts is too generous to ignore. For the sake of her family's financial well-being, she resolves to endure the partnership, even if it means dealing with Fernan's over-the-top personality. She's still not convinced, points out a glaring detail: Ruina is ranked 2nd, while Fernan is only ranked 10th. The large gap in their status seems unfair and suspicious, suggesting Fernan may be relying on more than just merit to secure Ruina's cooperation. Ruina is caught off guard by the statement and stares up at her maid with wide, surprised eyes. Just as tension lingers, a butler enters the room. She quickly turns to him and asks what's going on. The butler politely reports that young Lord Fernan has requested to see Lady Ruina. His presence and message immediately shift the atmosphere, as it seems Fernan is not waiting for things to unfold passively, he's actively taking charge. He elaborates, stating that Fernan is already waiting at the training grounds and has asked Ruina to meet him there as soon as possible. The maid reacts with disbelief, questioning if Fernan really expects Ruina to drop everything at his command. In the background, Ruina can be seen walking into the frame, having overheard the conversation, and now facing a choice that could influence both her future and reputation. She'll ask the lady directly, clearly upset about the message she just received. Ruina, looking both curious and slightly uneasy, wonders what Fernan is planning by calling her to the training yard. Her expression shows she's unsure whether to feel suspicious or intrigued. Fernan Fellenberg walking into the training ground with confident elegance, dressed in a formal suit with a mystical weapon floating behind him. His demeanor is unreadable. Ruina watches him from a distance, admitting mentally that she has no idea what he's plotting, which adds to her growing unease. Ruina Bershef as a consistent 2nd-ranked student in the night department. Her top competitor, Alon Donertz, has always held the number 1 position, and despite her efforts, Ruina has never managed to surpass him. The image also gives a visual of Ruina in her night attire, exuding strength and ambition. Despite her rank, it's revealed that Ruina has the raw talent to become one of the 10 royal knights on the continent, an elite and prestigious title. A visual flashback of her dueling a mysterious swordsman under a glowing moon suggests her potential might extend far beyond what her current rankings imply. Fernan, observing Ruina closely, comments with a cryptic smile that they'll soon find out if she's truly a hidden gem. His expression is both calculating and intrigued, implying that his invitation to the training ground is a test or perhaps a challenge meant to gauge Ruina's true capabilities beyond academic rankings. Ruina arrives at the training ground, her sword in hand, still confused about what exactly Fernan has in store. She confronts him cautiously, stating she doesn't fully understand what's going on and demanding clarification. Her readiness for battle suggests she's prepared for anything, whether it's a fight, a lesson, or something else entirely. He expresses a desire to prove his worth in the partnership, explaining that he doesn't want to appear as someone who brings no benefits. He emphasizes his intent to demonstrate that he's not inferior to her in any way, suggesting that beating her in combat might be the way to do it. Ruiner responds with calm honesty, acknowledging that while he is ranked 10th, he still made it into the prestigious Labitus Hall. She admits that she recognizes his abilities and doesn't see him as unskilled, indicating some degree of mutual respect. He, smiling confidently, agrees to the duel. However, he points out the undeniable gap in strength between the 2nd and 10th ranks. Despite that, he's ready to fight and is eager to settle things immediately without any further discussion. Ruina unsheathes her sword, accepting the challenge. With a serious tone and steady hand, she invites him to prove his worth through battle. Her expression makes it clear that she's not taking him lightly and is ready to give it her all. With a smirk, he activates his staff, its magic glowing ominously. Displaying confidence in both his abilities and strategy, he offers Ruina the first move. She agrees without hesitation, signaling the start of their long-awaited duel. A massive red crystal structure descends with a powerful presence, crackling with dark energy and ominous pressure. Below it, she braces herself, unfazed by the towering object, as if preparing to face it head-on. Her steady expression shows she's not intimidated by this sudden, overwhelming threat. He was partially visible and smirking. The sinister tone of his smile suggests he's orchestrating the sudden attack or has something malicious planned behind the scenes, adding an unseen layer of danger. With sword drawn and eyes focused, she leaps into action, dashing toward the incoming red shards. Her movements are swift, precise, and fearless. She's not backing down from this confrontation and is fully committed to countering the attack with her blade. A spinning blue arc slices through the falling red rocks, scattering chunks in all directions. The intensity of the strike is evident from the vibrant energy trails and impact force, showing her sword technique isn't just fast, it's incredibly powerful and refined. She follows up with a flurry of powerful slashes, her blade infused with radiant blue energy. Surrounded by debris and glowing with focus, she slices through the chaos with sharp precision, dominating the battlefield. Her hair flows wildly, matching the ferocity of her attacks. Charging straight toward her opponent, she closes in on the caster enveloped in a red aura. Dark energy whips violently in her path, but she pushes through, undeterred by the erupting spells or flying rubble. The momentum and determination in her assault are unstoppable. A barrage of crimson projectiles tears through the air, crashing into the ground with explosive impact. The shattered fragments and shockwaves highlight the sheer destructive force unleashed in the duel. Red energy crackles through the air, emphasizing the volatile intensity of the ongoing battle. The explosion continues to spread outward as debris and magical energy swirl around violently. She flips midair to avoid the blasts, while he remains grounded but composed, his staff pulsing with ominous red light. Below, a glowing blue caption reveals the damage. The training ground floor has been torn apart. With fierce determination in her glowing blue eyes, she charges forward at high speed. Her expression is focused and relentless, showing that she is not backing down despite the overwhelming magical power erupting around her. Undeterred by the dark energy, she slashes through the crimson tendrils with a purple-bladed swing. Her attack cuts cleanly, breaking through the corrupted energy while she roars in defiance, her momentum undisturbed by the chaos surrounding her. As the red aura recedes slightly, the swordsman locks eyes with her opponent. She narrows her gaze, quickly analyzing his stance and magical flow. In the background, he stands ready, unfazed by her resistance, as the tension between them builds toward their next deadly exchange. He stands tall at the center of an ominous crimson magic circle, holding his weapon in place as a surge of blinding red energy explodes from beneath him. Arcane patterns crackle around his body, and shockwaves ripple outward, tearing through the environment with brute force. The surrounding area distorts under the intense magical pressure as fragments of the floor shoot into the air. She braces herself, eyes wide in shock as the ground beneath her crumbles from the unleashed energy. She questions how such powerful destruction is even possible in a training ground supposedly reinforced with all kinds of defensive enchantments. This clearly isn't just some flashy attack, it's a display of magic on a terrifying scale that shouldn't exist in such a place. A close-up of her face shows her startled recognition as she utters his name. Her expression tightens with anxiety, piecing together the impossible power being displayed in front of her. The implications of who this person might truly be begin to dawn on her, unsettling her previously confident demeanor. He raises his weapon again, now fully surrounded by unstable arcs of crimson and black magic. The intricate spell circle continues to spin with even more intensity, cracks tearing through its design like a seal being forcefully shattered. His gaze remains calm, yet the world around him trembles from the unstable energy barely being contained. A surge of energy bursts forth from his body as he reveals his true form. His eyes glow an ominous blood red, and his staff is enveloped in a brilliant magical construct resembling twin swords pointed upward. The declaration in her mind is clear: he had been hiding his real strength all along. The chilling smile on his face confirms he no longer intends to hold back. An explanation of what a magic stone is: an ore infused with mana, regarded as one of the highest quality ores. Its immense value stems from the sheer magical energy it holds, making it a treasure in any world governed by mana-based systems. He highlights just how lucrative the discovery of such a deposit can be. It's a source of endless fortune if mined properly. He acknowledges that the Eris Mountains deposit was only mentioned vaguely in the prophecy. There was no detailed elaboration or confirmation, which adds an element of uncertainty to the claim. This emphasizes that the value lies more in the belief and timing of the reveal than in verified data. Standing confidently, he admits that he hasn't physically verified the existence of the mine himself. He's leveraging the information purely based on faith in the prophecy and using it as a strategic bluff to gain time and influence. He then adds that the current financial turmoil faced by the Donert's family due to the sinking of a shipment caused by a typhoon puts them in a desperate state. This gives him the upper hand, as their vulnerability could be exploited using the hope of a new income stream. His father considers using the Donert's family's current misfortune to secretly take control of the hidden magic crystal mine. He believes it's best to keep the prophecy that revealed its location a secret for now, so they can act without interference. He acknowledges that if the information about the mine is true, it could help recover from the losses caused. However, he insists on verifying the claim first and instructs the younger man to return to his studies while they investigate. He acknowledges his father's instructions and agrees to wait for further updates. His response is respectful, showing he's trying to stay composed and obedient under pressure. A moment of inner relief as he questions whether he managed to calm his father's anger. Though outwardly composed, he internally expresses how emotionally taxing the encounter was, jokingly feeling like his life expectancy has dropped from the stress. The mood turns sharply when the father sternly calls out his name, Fernan. The serious tone and Fernan's panicked expression suggest something unexpected or possibly threatening has been noticed. Fernan quickly straightens up and responds, "Yes, father," trying to recover his composure. But his inner thoughts reveal uncertainty and panic, unsure if he made another mistake that could provoke his father again. The father unexpectedly softens and invites Fernan to join him for a meal, revealing a more caring, albeit awkward, side. Fernan looks caught off guard but agrees, thinking to himself that his father simply couldn't send his son away without sharing a moment together. He expresses disappointment in the intelligence unit called Black Turtle, criticizing their failure to uncover critical information that Fernan had already discovered. His dissatisfaction hints at deeper political undercurrents and rising internal expectations. The butler immediately apologizes and promises to reassess the performance of the intelligence unit. At the same time, he gently advises his superior not to be too harsh, showing a mix of professionalism and loyalty in the midst of pressure. He shifts focus to Fernan, questioning the butler's opinion of him. He acknowledges Fernan's recent rise in influence and credibility, recognizing him as a reputable merchant for his dealings with the Duke. Despite Fernan's growth, the noble still doubts how Fernan acquired knowledge of the magic stone mine. He remains cautious, suggesting they'll learn more about Fernan's intelligence operations in due time, implying potential hidden motives. A hand grips a document as someone speculates that Fernan's team might specialize in mining or ores. This line of thought deepens the suspicion surrounding Fernan's capabilities and how strategically aligned his resources seem to be. The intelligence unit under Fernan's command is identified as the Golden Pillar. The noble acknowledges that Fernan is well aware of how valuable ores are, confirming that Fernan's knowledge and ambition could pose a significant economic and strategic advantage. Despite his strong natural connection to fire magic, he deliberately chose to specialize as an earth mage. The visuals depict him surrounded by blazing flames and magical runes, suggesting that this decision wasn't due to lack of power, but rather a strategic or personal choice that defied expectations. The older servant acknowledges that they'll need to confirm the information before drawing conclusions. Still, he begins to entertain the possibility that the young master, Fernan, might actually command the secret intelligence organization known as the Golden Pillar. There's a growing realization that Fernan may have significantly expanded the organization, particularly in matters involving ore and mining veins. His interest in ores isn't a passing fancy, he's been consistently obsessed with them, possibly even enough to reshape intelligence operations around that goal. He now visibly pleased, marvels at how Fernan could have orchestrated something as impressive as finding a magic stone mine. He's filled with pride, boasting internally about how brilliant his son is while the butler beside him silently acknowledges the moment with quiet observation. Suddenly, he shifts focus and demands an investigation into Ruina Bershev. His golden eyes narrow with intensity, and he orders a detailed report on how she managed to capture Fernan's interest, implying suspicion and a desire to protect or control his son's affiliations. The servant asks whether Fernan is possibly in love with Ruina. The Duke hands over a file, saying he's finished with it, and compares investment in a person to investment in business. If there's profit, pursue it. If not, don't. He's analyzing Fernan's actions through a cold, calculating lens. The conversation continues as the servant questions Fernan's motives. If there was no visible gain in his support of Ruina, then it suggests something deeper, possibly personal emotions. A flashback-style image shows Fernan and Ruina together, implying a romantic connection. He smirks, suggesting that Fernan's attention may be driven by youthful affection rather than cold logic. His tone is both amused and curious as he challenges his servant to consider what other reason could explain Fernan's behavior if not love. He smiles subtly and hints that there's more going on than what has been said. His knowing expression suggests he's starting to suspect a hidden motive or plan behind someone's recent actions, sparking curiosity in his companion, who appears puzzled but attentive. He rhetorically wonders what someone driven by money more than even their own father could possibly be after. His sly tone implies he's thinking about a deeper scheme or a larger goal driven by greed and ambition. She confirms that Alia Tortega and Carlos Denev are now a pair. She casually mentions that Carlos aligned with Alia after hearing about her own partnership, indicating that alliances and rivalries are forming based on strategic partnerships. She confirms Alia's rapid advancement in the Knights Department, moving from 5th to 4th. This comment implies that Alia has undergone major personal development or gained unexpected strength recently, earning attention and possibly envy. Fernan reacts with slight surprise, questioning the decision to mention their partnership. She shrugs it off, noting that rumors are already flying around and that people will believe what they want. She takes a pragmatic approach, accepting gossip as a part of the game. As a spoon prepares to dig in, alongside this, her calm voice states that everyone will learn the truth eventually anyway. The focus on the dessert may symbolize how she's savoring the moment or remaining unbothered by public opinion. She openly addresses the speculation that she partnered with him lead for financial reasons. She admits that the assumption isn't entirely wrong, but also frames it as a reality she's prepared to deal with. Her honesty reflects both self-awareness and emotional resilience in navigating her motives. He admits with a calm smile that it's true his motivations are indeed rooted in money. He openly confesses that he genuinely enjoys money, hinting that his decisions are based on calculated self-interest rather than emotional values or social pressure. He states there's nothing he can't accomplish, reaffirming his ambitions and confidence. She watching him remarks internally that it makes perfect sense why others call him the money demon, recognizing that his relentless focus on wealth sets him apart from others. Despite his confidence, the girl expresses her personal dislike for him. In her thoughts, she reveals that she harbors a strong aversion toward him, as shown humorously with a counter showing 0 likes and over 23,000 hates, emphasizing how deeply irritated she is by his attitude. With a direct look, she unexpectedly hands him something, telling him to take it. Her serious gaze and straightforward tone suggest that she's about to give him something valuable or significant, despite her stated dislike. A box and a golden envelope are shown resting on the table. When she curiously asks what they are, he explains that they contain an elixir and a voucher items that appear to be rare or prestigious. He elaborates further, explaining that the elixir was refined using mandrake roots, suggesting it has powerful or magical properties. Additionally, the voucher is from a weapon shop owned by his company, hinting that this is a serious and generous gift. She listens as he explains she can redeem the voucher at her family's shop for high-quality equipment. He seems both impressed and pleased, knowing the value of what he's offering and how it could enhance her abilities or status. The girl, however, grows uneasy and says she can't pay him back, worried about the imbalance. He calmly reminds her of their earlier agreement, a sponsorship contract implying that she's already fulfilling her part by being his partner, and repayment isn't necessary outside that deal. Ruina expresses her discomfort at receiving such a luxurious gift equipment from the prestigious Golden Turtle Company, saying it's too valuable to be accepted casually. She questions whether it's truly appropriate, hinting at the overwhelming pressure that comes with it. She assumes from his expression that even he believes it's too much. Although he bluntly denies it with a no, his inner thoughts admit she's right, showing he's aware of how extravagant the gesture seems. He internally justifies the cost, thinking that if this gift can secure Ruina's loyalty and prevent his own financial downfall, it's a small price to pay. He also considers the potential combat benefit if she becomes strong enough to assist in future battles. Ruina visibly struggles with the idea, realizing that rejecting a sponsorship might be considered breaking the contract. The thought of legal or contractual penalties shocks her, forcing her into a corner. With frustration and resignation, Ruina reluctantly accepts the offer, likely more out of obligation than comfort. Her expression reflects her unwilling surrender to the situation. As he prepares to leave, the male lead casually reminds her that they'll meet again in class, indicating that for him, the transaction is already settled. His demeanor contrasts sharply with her emotional turmoil. Left alone, Ruina remains disturbed by the generosity of the gift. She questions whether such expensive support, even under the label of sponsorship, is truly acceptable. Her mind begins racing, trying to remember the terms of the contract, especially if it included a penalty clause. She anxiously wonders whether there's a penalty clause in the sponsorship contract she just accepted. Her thoughts become a mental fog as she tries to recall the terms, unsure if rejecting the gift would actually result in consequences. Her internal doubt reflects her nervousness and confusion. Sitting alone at the table, she contemplates why he would lie just to give her such valuable items. Paranoia kicks in as she recalls a warning from her nanny, suspecting he may be trying to seduce her to gain access to her family's swordsmanship technique. Determined, she quietly vows that he can try, but she won't let him win. The peaceful, sunlit exterior of the academy transitions the scene. Despite the bright setting, the mood carries the weight of her inner resolve. Leaves drift gently in the breeze, symbolizing change, but also the start of something stirring beneath the calm surface. He peers out the window during class, wondering aloud why Armion isn't present. His curious and slightly suspicious expression shows that Armion's absence during an important lecture hasn't gone unnoticed. Armion finally appears, standing confidently among his classmates in uniform. Another student acknowledges his presence. The caption notes that this is the first-year Night Department's class titled War and Real-Life Sparring, hinting at intense training ahead. Students engage in friendly combat as part of the lecture, which is known for assessing their true combat ability. Armion, who obtained the legendary ego sword of Sir Gardner Elfenfarson, begins to draw attention during this sparring session. The prophecy surrounding him begins to take root. Bathed in a radiant golden glow, Armion is shown in a divine pose. This marks the beginning of his heroic journey, destined to become the world's savior. His determined gaze and glowing aura symbolize his fate and potential being set into motion. Elsewhere, he leans over a balcony, appearing lost in thought. His solitude is interrupted as he notices someone approaching. He turns, surprised, and asks aloud who the approaching person is, setting up a possible confrontation or important meeting. He steps into view, revealed to be Fernan Fellenberg. The glow around him suggests importance or power. His arrival is unexpected and potentially significant, hinting at shifting dynamics or the introduction of a powerful new ally or rival. A formal conversation unfolds between them. He greets him and reminds him of their previous interaction. He comments on the shift in demeanor, urging that since they are now sophomores, basic politeness should be observed. He, wearing a polite smile, changes the topic and inquires about any interesting developments among the new students. His tone is casual, but the question hints at deeper motives, perhaps scouting for potential threats or allies. He responds with a confident smile, stating that he always monitors those who rank high. This suggests he holds a position of authority or influence and is calculating in his watch over student performance. He turns the question back to his companion, implying mutual awareness. Fernan asks pointedly whether the other is here to observe Ain't Armion. His expression is calm but observant, clearly fishing for confirmation or insight about Armion's significance and influence in the academy. With a sly smirk, he admits he's there for Ain't Armion, citing the latter's connection to the former imperial family. The way he says it combined with the smirk suggests underlying tension and potential rivalry related to imperial lineage and power. The tension becomes more evident as he rationalizes his curiosity. Since the former imperial family hasn't entered the academy for a century, their sudden appearance naturally draws interest. He is identified as Ludger Schwaben, the second prince of the current imperial family, suggesting he represents the present power structure of the empire. A historical building visually explains the intertwined roots of the Armians and Schwaben families. Though both emerged from the same ancestry, their paths diverged when Schwaben rose to imperial status over the last 3 generations. Now, the strained relationship between the current and former royal families is framed as a central political theme. Ludger is shown in regal attire, emphasizing his ambition and commitment to preserving his family's rule. However, Ain't Armion's stronger legitimacy threatens this goal. Ludger's concern is justified. If Armion gains too much recognition or support, The stability of the Schwaben reign could be undermined. Fernan seems puzzled as others suggest someone is very curious about Ain't Armian. There's a moment of tension, with the prince speaking calmly and confidently, while the other seems slightly caught off guard, questioning what he just heard. Another character enters the scene. He's introduced visually with a poised expression and crossed arms. A student nearby recognizes him aloud, identifying him as Varen Kalbunder, hinting that this newcomer holds notable status or reputation. He elaborates that Varen Kalbunder entered the Knight Academy ranked second overall. He speculates that Varen is targeting the vacant position of Elector, previously held by the now fallen Ain't Armian. This could explain Varen's intense focus on Ain't. He processes the revelation, mentally connecting Varen's identity to his own memories. His internal monologue reveals that he remembers Varen from before, expressing surprise that they would cross paths again. It sets a contemplative tone, possibly foreshadowing future rivalry. Varen stands before a cloaked figure, possibly the prince, who commands him to defeat someone. Varen is told to show the world that the past no longer holds weight. This marks the beginning of his mission and his role as a challenger to the legacy of Armian. As the narrative describes Ain't as the prophesied hero, Varen solemnly acknowledges his mission. His expression is serious, and the moment signifies a shift. This is not just a personal ambition, but a symbolic role in a larger story where he must act as an obstacle. Varen declares his intent to eliminate Ain't Armian and destroy the lineage or legacy associated with him. The panel confirms what's been building up. Varen Kalbunder is now positioned as the next major antagonist in the story. A fierce-looking man angrily declares the next combatants Anton Dern and Ain't Armian. Reveals that this is Ludger Schwaben, a key figure in the current power structure, and beside him stands his subordinate, Varen Kalbunder. Their presence hints at a power struggle about to unfold. The focus moves to the central arena where Ain't Armian is about to face his trial. The narration notes that this is the true beginning of Ain't's journey as a hero. The symbolic setting reinforces the gravity of the moment, as several onlookers stand around the glowing circle, marking Destiny's stage. A hand claps loudly, signaling the start of the showdown. The energy in the air becomes palpable. The speaker encourages the action with a confident, "Well, let's begin," indicating the formal start of the duel, suggesting that what's happening is not just competition, it's fate unfolding. With intense build-up, the moment of triumph arrives. Ain't Armian emerges victorious over Anton Dern. The crowd erupts in cheers, repeatedly chanting his name. His victory is not just a win, it's a declaration. Ain't is now a name that everyone recognizes, setting the tone for his rise within the academy and beyond. Varen Kalbunder is shown silently observing Ain't's victory. Among the professors and students, this win creates a ripple effect. His calm yet sharp gaze suggests he's registering Ain't's growing presence not with admiration, but perhaps with calculated interest. Likely another influential figure at the academy. The narration indicates that Ain't's name is beginning to spread seriously now. His reputation is taking shape, and those in power are beginning to take note of his potential. Fernan watches Ain't with a glowing gaze. He questions whether this prophecy, which foretold Ain't's greatness, will be proven true. His expression suggests confidence that his bet on Ain't may finally start paying off, making this not just Ain't's beginning, but also a pivotal shift in the Academy's balance of power.